us where we are sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through with thanksgiving. We are living sanctuary. Tell somebody you're loved. Oh, make us where we are sanctuary, each made holy and loved right through with thanksgiving. We are living sanctuary anew. Yeah. Put your hands together, Bishop Carlton Pearson, everybody.
Thank you. I think the theme for the month is unity, right?
Unity and difference, a unity and diversity, yes.
Unity and diversity. I kind of have my thoughts in mind, but I write everything down because I'm supposed to be a writer. And I have to do books, so you never get barely a quarter of what I write down. But it reinvigorates me and it challenges me to think. By the way, I want to make mention of a friend I just met the other night. I got to remember the name. There's a Methodist pastor and his wife from all the way from the Dakotas. That's what I was saying, Nebraska. They came all the way down here just to hear me and Bruno. Actually, they came to stand up in the back. It's good. Give them a great big God bless you. We were leaving the Hyatt the other night after our gala, and they were leaving Bruno. There was just hundreds of people coming from Bruno, the Bruno concert. I thought I was going to preach there on the street or something. They just walked right past me, but we got to meet, and they said they'd slip in here today. I can't believe they came, especially on a sleep-in day like this. Wasn't this hard to get up? Oh, my God. If I didn't have to preach, I don't know where I'd be this morning. I want to talk just for a few minutes, and I really do have a few minutes. I have to be at the opening or the celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Boys Home immediately following this service. And so I'll just make a few reflections. If you, did you get it? Matthew did it. Look at me. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you. The theme I wrote down, the theme of the month is unity and diversity. Those are abstract terms, very relevant, very relative, but hard to say them in the same sentence. May we be one is my theme, which either fact or fantasy, oneness. One United States is less united today than it's been in a while. United, less together, different opinions, more polarity, polarization of the culture. Sometimes you wonder if the two-party system is even the best thing for a country because it's easy to take sides, conservatives and liberals and progressives. And we hurt as a country. We're even angry because we miss being one. And yet we're not sure what that means. Even couples who consider themselves to be one, or the body of Christ being one, or this being one church. We actually have three different brands of our church. This is one of three. This is the contemporary one, and then there's the traditional one, and across the hall is the humanist one. We're all really one together, one, but we are better being one, being three. Isn't that interesting? And it's okay. We can't all fit in here anyway, and that's a good excuse for not actually assembling together. But we're one with diversity. We're one with the fantasy of a couple who consider themselves one. You've heard me say if a husband and wife agree about the same thing all the time, everything, one of you ain't necessary. The Greek word for agreement is symphoneo, and that means what? English, symphony. The English word is symphony. Doesn't mean to sound the same. It doesn't even mean to sound alike. It means to sound together and to have the diversity, to have the different sounds when they blend harmoniously, and sometimes they don't, they clash. There's the dissonance within difference. And families, most families are not really one, yet they're one family, maybe one bloodline and one name, and yet there's all kinds of diversities and different expressions. So the only way to be one is to understand the significance and the uniqueness and the beauty of symphonic differences. To be diverse is to be different or other than, sometimes separate, and yet not separated. That's the art and harmony and grace and science of unity. Has the United States ever been united? Well, we hang out together and sometimes hang one another. Unity is both real and unreal, natural and unnatural, common and less common or uncommon. The United States Shades of America, I like that a lot. I watch it when I can. Brilliant young comedian. Camus, I think is his name. What is it? Bell, Dr. Bell. I'm going to call him Bell because that's easier to say. But he goes all over. He was once he's an African-American, sort of a gadfly, humorist. He actually went to a Ku Klux Klan town and meeting where they were burning a cross. And he had the guts to stand there. And the head guy, what do you call it? I'm glad a black person said that because if one of you whites had said out of no, I would have ran right out of here. The Grand Wizard was there, and they were observing, and I realized the commonality of that expression because he came to the home of the Grand Wizard, entered his house, ate with him, went to his office in this little small town, and it was actually healing to see it. And yet nobody changed except attitudes slightly. He had a black man in his house at his table, then invited him to the Ku Klux Klan meeting and then to the actual burning of the cross. They don't call it burning of the cross. They call it lighting of the cross because it's supposed to bring illumination on the diversity and how whites need to stay white and blacks need to stay blacks and browns. So they make a point. Most of us, I grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood in the South, a few Mexicans and even fewer Caucasians, Southern California. Then I moved into the strict ghetto, which was mostly African-American and some Mexicans and a few brave whites. In fact, a very nice white lady lived next door to us. And she never had any problems. She was so at home in that neighborhood. Now, if you go there today, it's almost all Hispanic, all Mexicans, and in San Diego. But I've been around it. I went to a high school, the San Diego High School. I was actually elected student body president of a school that was 50% white. We would have said white in those days. 20% black, 20% brown, 10% otherwise. Yellow and Native American, what have you. And it was the biggest high school in town. And I remember I was elected to the president, and then there was a club called Umoja, which is the Swahili word for unity, and the African-American teacher, they pulled me in and said, you're the first black, you're not the first black, but you're a black student body president, and you're not doing enough for black people. What are you going to do for black people? I said, well, first of all, I'm going to be black. That's the first thing I'm going to do. And they said, well, I said, remember that I won a landslide by 80% of the vote, and 50% of that was white. So I'm the president for all people. I'm very sensitive to African-American issues. That was right during the Civil Rights Movement, same decade that we lost Dr. King. The Black Power movement was starting. And I was trying to balance the differences between the cultures and the characters and the ideologies. And still, my whole theme was one. When I ran for mayor, my thing was one Tulsa. In San Diego was one school. I've always been for oneness, but I've never really seen it unless I could appreciate the diversity. That we are different and we should celebrate more than tolerate, but sometimes you have to tolerate before you can celebrate. How do you sit with somebody that you don't really agree with? We don't have to go along to get along. We can mind many of the same things without having the same mind about everything. When you're used to having your own way, and all of us have opinions, and that comes to the Greek word ophthalmos, or ops for eye. We all have opinions, and we all have views, and we all have perceptions, and our opinions are the strongest idol we have. We literally worship and war for our opinions. We don't even know how to change them. Sometimes we don't like our opinions, but we still have them, and we still hold them. Sometimes we don't even agree with the opinion. That is the view. You don't like the view, you don't agree with the view, but it's still yours. How are you going to deal with a view that you don't like? How many views do you have that you don't like? One of them might be me. You're looking at me and you may not like what I look like. That's all right. You better keep on looking because I still got it. I view the news. I have an option to view it, an opinion about viewing it, but I always view it. I'm loving diversity, but I'm navigating and negotiating through it and still finding my peace. That's what we're trying to do here at All Souls. And that's what most churches, you drive by and it says, all are welcomed. All are welcomed. Every church means that. No church really means that. All the churches say that. That means you're welcome, but that doesn't mean you're wanted. Same with family reunions. Everybody welcome, but everybody ain't wanted. And sometimes you don't go just because one or two cousins or a sibling doesn't want you there, and you know they don't, but everybody else wants you there, and you will break the whole union's heart by not going because of your feelings, because of somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Who do you like? Who do you love? It varies. So we're not really in America a melting pot. We're a stew. And if we emphasize melting pot, that's a fantasy. We are a stew. Every ingredient maintains its own individuality. But when you stew together long enough, you taste better. I made a gumbo last night, and I brought Dorothea, and I always cook something for the pal. By the way, Sarah Jordan just turned, I didn't ask for permission, but I know she's cool about it. You would never know that lady is 80 years old. Stand up, Sarah Jordan Powell right there. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Look, turn around, let us see that. Look at that, 80 years old. I didn't even know that, and they're some of my closest friends. And John is somewhere around 97. No, I'm kidding. He just turned 80 just a few months ago, and they're like two peas in a pod. They've been married for 51 years. That is Nobel Peace Prize stuff to last that long. I often tell you my mom and dad would have been married 68 years had he lived one more month, and daddy was still saying 68 years, son, and I'm still doing time. So that didn't mean it was the most pleasant experience, and it wasn't. Marriage isn't usually a pleasant experience or a pleasing. It's hard work, and you like the things that you do together, whatever, if it's just bringing kids. And then when the kids turn out to be something you wish you hadn't brought, you blame each other. And maybe it was but their grandkids or the friends they have. There's always some reason to find an excuse for not liking or for complaining. And I'm learning the discipline after 65 years. How can I get along better with myself? None of you like everything about you. And you consider yourself one. Your joints and the ligaments are painful at times. The older you get, you need those joints for your leg to be, the neck bone connected to the, what is that? What song is that? I forgot. I haven't sang it in years. I know Gerald. Gerald knows all the old songs. The connection itself is where the pain often is. And yet you don't want to be amputated, and you wish you could fix the ligament or the disc. You want that connected thing which is generally flexible and tender and has elasticity to it, and it often swells or gets inflamed. And you take anti-inflammatory drugs or a shot or a steroid or something. You don't want to lose the joint. You just don't want the joint to hurt. But joints often hurt, especially if you use them a lot. But don't throw the joint or the connectedness away. Now that's easier said than done. or you don't want to deaden the joint so much that you don't know it's there. If you deaden it too much, it doesn't operate. Sometimes you just have to deal with the pain. Turn to somebody and say, sometimes I just have to deal with the pain. One of my favorite passages on oneness is John 17. I've said it for many, many years. I had one of the most inclusive, radically diverse, and not terribly diverse. It was just ethnically and culturally and racially integrated. Integration doesn't always mean profound diversity, because you can actually be a racist and still be an abolitionist, like John Newton was. John Newton was a racist till he died. He still owned slaves 30 years after he wrote Amazing Grace on a slave ship, bringing them back to Europe. I can be a racist and still hang around with people who are not of my race and have them as my friends, and still have prejudgmentalisms or prejudices about their race. You can hang out with people of different religions or no religion and have a prejudice about them, a prejudgment about them, or not necessarily a prejudice, just a preference. Just because somebody has a preference, that doesn't mean they're a prejudice. If you walk into a room, and particularly us who have used to being in the minority, and you're not comfortable in the room, I would look for the people who might relate to me color-wise. Now, and I've actually done that, and the persons I sat with didn't want me at that table. And it didn't take me but a few seconds to, why are you sitting with us? And so I get up and say, I ain't sitting with you. Let me find me some white people. Or some males or females, or I find Oklahomans in one place and you got another state, or Tulsans sitting together and you got other cities. We all have opinions, and we try to make ourselves comfortable with what we know as a preference, and which is sometimes a prejudice. A prejudice means that you have judged me before you met me, or you judged the situation before you were actually in it. And we all carry those. I struggle now every time I walk around, and I've admitted this, and I still have been doing it ever since Donald Trump has been president. And I know we have some Trump voters in here. This is not an opinion, it's an observation that when I see white people, I generally assume they're Trump voters. Who is? Now, that doesn't mean I hate Trump voters. I question you. No, I'm not. Doesn't mean I have an opinion about Democrats and Republicans. I was a Republican from Reagan till Obama. When I heard Ronald Reagan say, and I was hanging around with James Robinson, some of my conservative brethren at that time, when I heard Ronald Reagan say, you can't help me, but I can help you. I was thinking primarily about religion, about the church, the fundamentalist church. So I started, and I actually wrote an article in the newspaper that went all over the country titled, Not a Traitor, Black and Republican. And when I studied black super Republican, when I found that Johnny Johnson was, Ebony, Dizzy Gillespie, a lot of African-American self-starters, capitalists who had money were actually Republicans. They were socially Republicans, and economically they might have been, they were socially Democrats and economically Republicans. And we're conservatives in various ways, and we're liberals in various ways. And there's a part of me that's very liberal. There's a part of me that's somewhat conservative. There's a part of me that salutes Donald Trump. Not much of me, but there's a little in there. And there's a little in there that salutes Hillary or whoever the candidate against Trump will be. I have all these opinions, but it's still me. Everybody say, it's still me. I'm not overly decisive, and I'm open to change. I'm open to the challenge. And if we're ever going to be what we think we want to be, we've got to be less judgmental, less critical, to the point that it separates us from people with whom we disagree, or with whom we don't actually disagree, we just don't agree. Is there such thing as not saying no, just not saying yes? Most of you looked in the mirror this morning and said no to a lot of yeses, and yes to a lot of no's, and you came anyway. Dressed like you dressed. And what were you thinking? No, I'm kidding. I say yes and no to me every day. I agree and disagree, but I'm still me. Say it again, I'm still me. And I love me some me. And turn to the person next to you and say, I'm starting to like you a little bit. Now, Jesus prayed, and I'm closing with this part of it, the night before he was crucified with the 12 disciples. Judas was still there. Later, he would leave and betray him. Jesus actually said, have I not chosen 12? And one of you is a devil. He didn't say the devil, a devil. If you just have to have a devil, let it be one you choose. Don't let somebody choose your devil for you. Now, he wasn't talking about a horned, hoofed, hairy beast. He was talking about somebody that was adversarial to his purpose, not to his personhood. Somebody that was against him, or satanic, which means adversarial, or in opposition. When we think of Satan, we think of a demon or a devil, but we're really just anything that is, that's what the word Satan means throughout Scripture. It means opposition. Well, that might be your spouse. If you call your spouse the opposite sex, you married the devil and don't even realize it. I don't know why we call it opposite, because that subliminally says you should oppose your spouse, male or female. Do we? We tend to do that. We tend to do that inadvertently. You don't realize that the system is that is my opposite. That's really your corresponding sex if you're married to them, or your corresponding love if you're married to them or committed to them or there's relation. But we have all these little catchphrases that make us struggle with being who we are. We have fingers and toes and ears and lips and nose. And how many of you like all parts and features of your body? But it's still you. Some parts are private and are never revealed. Some parts are private and should never be revealed, but are. Sometimes we are more delicate with certain parts, the parts that seen the face and hands, and sometimes the feet. We make it look a little bit better. You might get a pedicure or a manicure. I told you my mom and dad were trying to get going to get a pedicure. Daddy didn't know what that was by that terminology, or had forgotten it. And Mama insisted that he go. He didn't want to go, but he went anyway. And he kept saying, "Now watch this, baby. What are we getting?" She said, "A pedicure, honey." I told, that's when they clip your toenails. We're going to get a pedicure. And they'd get closer, and he'd ask them, "Now what is this, baby? What we going in here to get? What? We're going to get a pedicure, sweetheart. They're going to clip the toenails and just trim up our feet." And when they walked in the store, my mother forgot and said, we want 2 pedophiles while we're in here. One for him and one for me. Now I have to watch that kind of thing. Mama asked me 3 times where was I going this morning, and what day it was, and what time it was, and thought Julian was going to eat breakfast. He's been gone for 2 days, and Majesty was coming home. I have to repeat things, so she's turning 89 next month, and she's fine. She was in there cooking dinner, and I just made a whole gumbo last night, and she knows the gumbo's in the refrigerator, and but that's Mama. She's a little bit slower now. She doesn't remember things, and she repeats herself, but she's still mine. I don't like the fact that my mother's slipping away from me, sort of, in some ways, and at the same time, you hug her and kiss her and change the linen and fix some things around the house, and, have you done this, Mom? Have you done that? Have you eaten? She'll always say, "I'm not hungry," and then eat everything I give her. So, Mom, you just said no. Why did you say no? Why don't you just say yes? She just likes to be contentious, but that's Mother. Turn to somebody and say, "That's Mother. That's Mother." Wrap your arms around yourself like this. Who is that I'm talking to? That they may be one. Heis is the Greek word. That means that they may be singular, one in contrast to many. Metaphorically, that they may be unified, not uniformed. Not all wearing the same clothes, having the same opinion, but that they are united, that they are of one accord, from the word cardia, heart, of one heart, one courage, one courage. That's what we want to do. I say, let's get together 2 or 3 times a year, all the services combined in one big jam-packed out service. So we can hang with traditionalists and hang with contemporaries. And those are just titles, because there's a lot of contemporaries who love tradition, a lot of traditionalists who love contemporary. There's a lot of humanists who don't want to be called humanists. They just use the term because that's what it means. They love humanity, but they love you too. You're human. I'm human. We do love each other. We don't always like each other. So we're sequestered and we're singular, but we're not exclusive, though we sometimes are excluded. We embrace who we are. Unity is both intentional and it's automatic. Let's work on the intention. Hug yourself a little bit tighter. Squeeze that little forearm, or what arm, what part of the arm? Sometimes people don't even like that part of the arm. A little too flabby for you, too soft. Don't have enough muscle. When a guy does that, it's because he ain't got no muscle. If he just does that, when you do that, which I'm very good at, that means there's no muscle there, but it's still my arm. Or if there is a muscle there, it may not be muscle as large as you want. If you're more tolerant of you, and that toleration becomes celebration, you'll be more tolerant of me. The things that may never change about somebody you love in your family. A son or daughter that is not gonna ever pick up or clean up or be as sensitive or as grateful. A spouse who's set in their ways. You've been married so long, they don't even know that way is the way or that there is another way. Why would I try to change an 89-year-old mother? It's dumb. I'm 65 and she can't change me. I really wasn't changed that much at 45. Ask these folks who were with me when I was 45. I've evolved and some things dissolve. It's not always intentional, but I like to be aware of what's happening in me. Now take those same arms and stretch, shift that energy around. Oh, I'm getting to know me better. Oh, I feel good about me more. Shake the enemy, shake the old stuff, energy and enemy off. Say, I've got this. Give somebody a high five and say, I got it, I got it, I got it. I think I can make it. I like you the way you are. And when you start liking, that will add this to you, healing. I think your body will heal better if you're less contentious. If you let some disagreements go. Remember, forgiveness is giving up the right to be right. Not always the reason to be. Forgiveness is giving up the right to be hurt. Not the reason always. You give up the right to be angry because we all feel like we have one, but not the reason to be angry. I just gave up my right. And I'm freer, I'm happier, I'm wholer. I like you and I'm getting better at it all the time. Peace and blessing to all of you.
You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
Love BB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
And be a blessing.